Welcome to Demasked. My name is Frezzman, and today I'm joined by Silvadorkable. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, you are.
Fantastic. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. How about you?
I'm doing very good. It's always fun doing an interview. So, what all do you, for those who are not aware of your channel, what do you do on your channel?
Actually, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I originally started out as a gaming channel in 2014. But since then, I've kind of gravitated more towards doing art live streams and creepypastas.
I believe it was Lady Spookaria had mentioned that you had done some artwork for her.
I had. She actually was one of my best customers.
Yeah, I'll have to let her know that. I mean, unless you've already gotten to her.
Oh, she knows how much I appreciate her.
So, what made you lean more towards art?
Well, I've been an artist since before I can remember, honestly. My mother was an artist, so I kind of picked it up from her. But I really enjoy video games. So when 2014 was around, I was like, oh, I have a computer, I have a webcam, I can do this. And so I was like, well, I've been wanting to play more video games, why not? So I picked it up with a friend. We did it for a couple years. Eventually he moved on to other things, and I kind of took it on solo. But after a while, I kind of realized that I was not necessarily doing it for the fun anymore. I was just doing it as like almost a responsibility. And the views dictated more on what I would play, so I wouldn't necessarily play games I enjoyed as much as I'd play games that would get me views. And at that point, I wasn't really having fun, so I kind of got a little burnt out, took a step back, and I'm like, well, why don't I try something different? I'll try doing artwork because I have the ability to live stream artwork. I just never really did it a lot. So I started that, and a lot of my viewers actually really liked it because it's a pretty unique thing that I can offer compared to video games, whereas art is kind of subject to each individual person. My style might differ a lot from someone else's style. So a lot of the time I'll do live streams 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and do whatever artwork either is requested, or like I've been doing the Sailor Moon redraw challenge today. But a lot of that just, it was something that was different than video games, since I'd kind of lost my spark for playing them for views, and it kind of just stuck.
How long have you been under the banner of Silvadorkable?
Shoot, I want to say maybe a year. Before that, I was actually quits gaming.
Okay. Interesting. So, do you have a not for views? Do you have a favorite video game?
I do. I have a couple, actually. I'd say my favorite as far as the game itself would be BioShock, just because I love the whole dystopian kind of dilapidated buildings and everything. It's a very eerie feeling, and I absolutely love it. As far as lore goes, I'm actually a huge Five Nights at Freddy's fan just for the lore, because it kind of has a pretty in-depth, intense backstory that not a lot of people notice when you first play the game.
Yeah, definitely. With BioShock, have you played any of the more recent ones?
I have. I enjoyed BioShock 2 just for the part that you play as the little sister. Because being able to see how her warped perception plays into their behavior is a really interesting concept to me. BioShock Infinite, I liked the concept, but I kind of felt like they didn't deliver on what they promised with the preview trailers. Because I expected it to be very much like BioShock, with like everything's falling apart and the people are crazy, and they just kind of gave me like a Civil War sort of a situation going on.
the sky racists?
Yeah, I was like, well, I mean, I can understand hating these guys because these guys are kind of assholes, but at the same time, like, I'm like, where are all the splicers that were supposed to be sweeping their porches while their house is on fire? Like, that was promised in the gameplay trailer, and I never got that.
Well, even then, that was like a 2012 preview trailer, if I remember.
Oh yeah, it was a very early one.
Yeah, but I remember a lot of different stuff about it. Like, even the skyhook was different. The melee weapon from Infinite.
Oh yeah, and they did also promise that everything was rendered like in real time, so that
Mm-hmm.
building way off in the distance was really there being rendered and you could interact with it like if it fell.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing ever fell. You were kind of stuck in like your own little corral.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Even if you fell off, you just kind of flash to white and end up back on the platform.
exactly. So, like I don't know, I liked the concept of it and I liked all of the detail they put into it. The ending was a little existential for me.
Hmm.
But the burial at sea kind of made up for it because
Yeah.
they really did a good job with like that whole film noir sort of feel.
Yeah. And I like the especially with the ending, although it partially felt a little bit forced. I did like the tie back into Rapture.
That is true. They did at least give it a point as far as why it's called BioShock when it didn't really have a lot to do with otherwise.
Mm-hmm. There's always a man. There's always a city. There's always a lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And, oof.
But yeah, no. BioShock 1 is by far probably my favorite game.
Well, there's I mean, it ties into Barrel at Sea too because it takes place kind of in that same headspace. But I love the character of Jack from the first game,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because he's that kind of character that I enjoy because he was doomed from the start.
He really was, and like I went into the game blind, so I'm horrible with foreshadowing. Like I don't pick
Mm-hmm.
any of it up. So when all of the plot twists drop and everything, I felt so betrayed. And I was just like, how could you do that to me, Atlas? I trusted you.
Well, the first time I played through it, I didn't even. I guess I was just too like ignorant at the time, but I didn't pick up on any of it.
See, I could see that. They did a really good job with like masking a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you really had to be perceptive. It kind of just smacked me in the face because they pretty much get to the point where it's like, oh ha, I tricked you, and I'm just like, oh, like how could you do that? And then and I know I was just like I feel genuinely betrayed. I'm invested in this game now. Um, Although I will admit that the part that probably filled me with the most rage is when they were Dr. Suchong, I think his name was, in one of the voice recordings where he was with young Jack
Uh-huh.
and he made him kill the puppy.
Yeah.
And I was just like seething at that point because animal harm is like one of my biggest pet peeves. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I'm going to find that doctor and I'm going to kill him.
he he's dead and he's too dumb to know it.
I know, and I was just like, I'll never get my revenge for the puppy.
Well, oh god, what's the name of the plastic surgeon that you find?
Oh, what is his name? I'm trying to think because I know that the drama guy is Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
Suchong is the doctor that did the mental stuff. There's Andrew Ryan. There's Tenenbaum is the woman. I can't think of the name for the guy who does the plastic surgery.
Well, the reason I bring him up is because like I got that game back when it came out in like 2008, I want to say. And I was a scaredy cat at that time. I was like afraid of my own shadow. And so I had to have somebody sit with me while I played it.
See, I've always loved horror games, but I startle very easily.
Mm.
So like I remember being when Silent Hill the original came out and I was like sitting there glued to the TV, but the moment a jump scare happens, I like drop the controller and like flip out. So watching me play like Five Nights at Freddy's or
Yeah.
Boogeyman or any of those, like I can't respond. I seize up and I just flip the hell out. So creepy stuff is fine. It's just jump scares that get me.
Yeah, and for me, I'm not like if any past episode of the show's to be believed, I'm fairly against jump scares because a lot of times it's just in the camera. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like even the VR jump scare games, like because the VR camera is literally strapped to your head. No matter where you look, it's there. So I can literally look down and it'll be like the monster's jumping out of my crotch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I looked down. Why are you still there?
There's this. I'll have to find the channel and send it to you. But he makes VR renditions of well-known areas in video games. But it's for like that kind of VR headset where you put your phone in.
Mm.
And have you played Half-Life 2?
Once upon a time.
So do you know the area Ravenholm?
It's not ringing any bells, but I'm sure I was there.
So it's the main area in which that game takes a hard left turn into horror.
Mm-hmm.
And I played that game for years, like almost near when it came out, and I still get a little antsy when I play that game, even today. Like, if I were to go back, I'm like, alright, little uneasy, don't want to be here, great. And this guy made this video that's a collection of areas from Half-Life 2, and some of the areas I always wanted to see in VR, so I had, like, my phone and the headphones in. Like, this is great, wonderful locations, and then it hard cuts to Ravenholm. And he added, like, ambient noise, and I'm like, I gotta pull the headset off, I gotta back up.
You're just suffering from, like, video game PTSD.
Yeah.
I have an Oculus Rift, and I've played horror games on it, and I can honestly say that it takes the triggers that normally get you in video games and amplifies it drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have minor thalassophobia, which is pretty much like I don't like deep dark water.
Okay.
And it's mostly just because of A, I don't like the idea of drowning, but B, I don't like what could be in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I played a game that wasn't even supposed to be a horror game, and it's called The Blue. And it's a game where you're underwater, and it's supposed to be beautiful, and there's like a giant humpback whale that's like swimming by and everything, and I got legitimately uncomfortable just because of the sheer massive size of this thing and that I was underwater. And it was very uncomfortable for me, even though a normal person would probably be looking at that going, oh my gosh, it's a magnificent beast. Me, I was like, it's too big, I'm underwater, I don't like this.
I'm afraid of the dark in general. And I tried, my brother had me play Five Nights at Freddy's VR.
Oh, I own that one. And have you done the flashlight one?
I haven't even played it.
Oh, that one will be horrible for you. I'm just telling you that.
Well, no, it's the staging area, like, before you even start. You know, where you're at that big desk?
Oh, I didn't think about that, but that place is really dark.
Well, no, I'm sitting there, and my brother goes, hey, look over your shoulder. I'm like, alright, cool. And I look back and I see a pair of eyes staring at me from a doorway. I'm like, nope, I'm done. Okay.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I love him.
And that's the first time I ever, like, hard just, nope, not doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, can't convince me.
No, there's, in that game is actually probably one of my favorite VR games because of how kind of immersive it is, but at the same time they have like different game modes. There's a mode that I love, which is where you have to repair the animatronics. And you have to get like right up in there, and they're not moving. Well, they're kind of jerking around a little, but like you have to take out their eyeballs and put them in like the certain receptacles and kind of like clean things out. But you have to get really close to them, and if you do anything wrong, like you put the wrong eyeball back in the wrong order, they jump scare you.
No, thank you. I'm good.
I loved it, but it was probably one of my favorite parts because the other parts get kind of more intense than that, like the vent repair, where you have to watch 3 different sides for things trying to get you.
Yeah, no. No.
Oh.
I Well, the thing is, like, I'm not. How do I put it? I'm not a very anxious person, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but with the minute of the lights turn off in a room and I'm by myself, that's when the panic sets in.
See, I can understand that because even though it's not underwater, it's like the same concept. It's what you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
So I could understand that entirely. Especially because, like, you don't actually know what is where or if something's in there with you.
Well, I've recently learned what sound I make now if I'm panicking.
Mm.
Because you know your stereotype for panic noise is like yelling or
Mm-hmm.
like babbling. I say oh, but like over and over.
I've actually heard people who play horror games do stuff like that. Or they'll just be like, oh no, no, no. And then you just hear them saying no over it, and you're like, what the hell are they talking
Well,
about?
I made the mistake of recently I was hanging out over at a friend's house and their bathroom light works on a motion sensor, and
Oh
there's
no.
there's a towel in front of the motion sensor, and I'm across the room and the light goes out, and the
And then
door.
you have to sit there and wave your hands, but the towel's there.
Well, like I knew that I had to like go over and like kind of like slap the thing, but I couldn't find the door, and I'm just I can clearly hear myself going oh 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 oh.
Your friend's probably just like, what the hell?
Frezzman okay in there? Oh oh.
See, there's only been one time that I've legitimately sat down in like the dark and thought for a second and kind of got that weird feeling. And it was right after I watched Paranormal Activity in the theater. And it wasn't the concept of ghosts. I
Yeah.
woke up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and I don't turn on any of the lights. And so I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, there could be something in here watching me right now.
Yeah.
And then I just sat there for a second and I was like, is there something in here watching me right now? And I was like, okay, I'm getting a little freaked out.
Here's the thing. I don't take that chance. The minute I sit up in bed, phone flashlight on, stand up, go turn the room light on, turn the hallway light on, and the bathroom light on, and then turn them off as I'm on my way back.
See, you do well with like the type of room light I have. It actually has a remote control.
Here's the thing. It would never turn off because I'd never use that remote.
Sure, you're like, it's on forever.
Like I've been afraid of the dark since I was a little kid, and so like I used to go to bed with like a flashlight, like a camping flashlight, and I just sit there, just click it on, check the room, click it off for a minute, click it back on, check the room again.
Oh, well, no wonder you don't want to play Five Nights at Freddy's. You've been doing it since you were a kid.
Yeah, before it was cool. Take that, gamers.
Oh, that... I cannot imagine having that fear. I truly sympathize with you because I think that I would go insane with that.
Well, the thing is, like, outside at nighttime, I'm totally fine because I can see the stars and the moon and like the street lights and all that. But a buddy of mine lives way out in like kind of the farming area of the state, and I was waiting on a ride back to my house from his house in like the middle of the night, and he's got like a nice lit walkway that goes to the end of his driveway, but then it's just a wall of black. There's no light at all.
Oh, and since there's some light, you can't see the stars.
Yeah, well, that and there's trees everywhere.
Oh,
and
that
so
would suck.
I got a call from my ride, and they're like, "Hey, can you meet me like on the road? I'll pick you up there." I'm like, "No, nope."
Well, I wouldn't do that anyway, because what's the likeliness you're going to get hit by a car?
Yeah.
I would not stand in the middle of a dark road. I'm sorry.
Well, like I just went, you know what? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna turn on my phone flashlight, and when I see headlights, I'm gonna start waving.
Yes. I will bring my rave gear and set up a disco ball, and you can just go towards whatever shiny thing you find.
I brought my glow-in-the-dark hula hoop.
Oh, that would be awesome, actually. Out in the middle of farmland, you just see this weird thing. People are like, yeah, we saw a UFO today. It was hovering around the ground. We actually used to have a guy, several years ago, back when I lived at a totally different apartment. There was a guy who would go to this local school field and fly his kite at night, but his kite had like all these LEDs on it. And apparently that became a problem because a lot of people would see this weird glowing thing in the sky and immediately call in that they saw a UFO. And it's like, it's just a kite. You can see the shape.
I used to be an avid kite flyer when I was younger. Daytime kite flyer.
I can imagine. It's not something that most people do at night.
Yeah, right? God, what's that like?
I can't imagine, like, I have problems just getting a kite into the air because you have to run so much just to get it up. At least
or have
around
somebody
here.
you trust throw it.
Yeah. Well, because unless you have a really strong wind. So can you just imagine this guy literally running in circles with his kite, trying to get it up in the air in the middle of the night?
And it's glowing.
And it's glowing. It's the one thing that gives him light, but it's behind him. I was just like, no, I can't see doing that. Like, I like a lot of things that I can do at night.
Yeah.
But flying a kite wouldn't be one of them. It's just, I don't know. Maybe a drone. I could see flying a drone at night.
Maybe.
Because that thing just normally goes up on its own.
Or just get a flying saucer, you know. Just double
I
down.
wish. I would love a flying saucer.
Oh man, do you remember those balloons that you would fill with helium that were shaped like flying saucers?
Oh, I do.
What was it called? Like anti-gravity discs or something like that?
Something like that. It was super weird. They also had other weird things. I remember back when I was a kid, we had one of these things just like laying around until it broke. But it was like a Nickelodeon type of blimp. And it was a big balloon. But you didn't fill it with helium, you filled it with air, but it had 4 spokes underneath it that you hooked up to a hose, and they shot water and lifted it up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a summertime toy, but then obviously one of the spokes sooner or later breaks, and then it just goes in circles.
You could get dive bombed by Nickelodeon?
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what happened, and then it broke one. And we're just like, well, now it's trash. Oh well. Nothing like getting soaked and assaulted.
Who knew Scorched Earth could be so much fun?
And you just wasted like $30. Yay!
Yeah.
Parents were so happy.
Those are the best kind of toys.
And that's when I went to video games, because you can play those over and over.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I used to have a heck of a collection, but then I sold off a bunch of them and then have slowly been buying them back.
Makes sense. What console?
It was for the Xbox 360.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so a lot of it was like launch titles, just stuff I'd come across throughout my teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Well, it makes sense, because some of the best ones that we have nostalgia for are ones that we grew up with.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, I think the idea of, like, certain pricing for video games that are harder to find it gets a little ludicrous.
Oh, no, it is. I'm not even going to, like, tiptoe around that. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
When they want $500 for a video game, and it's like, are you kidding me? And, like, sometimes, like, some of the game companies, like Nintendo, for example, will kind of pick up on that and be like, okay, well, we're gonna release some of our old games for the older systems, and you can buy them and download them and play them. But then there's some companies that are just like, nope, and nothing's backwards compatible, so you're screwed.
I put a plea on Twitter, I think a couple of years ago, with Konami, and I just went, look, man, it's free money if you want to just re-release all of the Metal Gear Solid games and the Silent Hill games on PC.
I would love that.
you would get free money from everybody, including me.
Which the funny thing is, they have re-released a lot of the Silent Hill games on PC, but not 2. I can't find 2.
Why re-release the good one?
I don't know. That's the best one. But no, you can buy 4 The Room and 5 Homecoming everywhere, but you can't find 2.
What I love about Silent Hill 2 is that it's so good that future games have lost track of what 2 did, and then
Exactly.
but then at the same time tried to copy it.
Well, see, it's kind of funny because I think 2 was the last one that was actually made in Japan out of that series. And they did such a really good job with the ambience and the kind of psychological subtlety that goes into a lot of the horror aspect.
And the
Like,
imagery. Oh.
Very much. And like in Silent Hill 2, you truly feel alone at times. Like you can't see anyone around you. It's quiet. You don't even have static half the time. And you genuinely feel like you're alone.
Well, like even when you find somebody, what's her name? Laura?
Oh, Maria. The
one
woman
in
that
the-
dresses in leopard?
No, the one in the graveyard.
Oh, Angela.
Angela. When you find Angela, you're like, finally another person. Then you're like, oh, she's nuts. Okay.
Yeah. And it's even creepier because when you think about it, that Silent Hill pretty much takes on whatever form of your personal hell. Like when he sees everything on fire and he's like, what's going on? And Angela's just like, oh, you see it too? This is how it always is for me. And it's just like, oh, well, that's nice.
Well, the thing is, like, Silent Hill 2 is kind of this weird focal point of the grave misunderstanding of what Pyramid Head is.
True. And the nurses.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
The fact is that it bothers me so much. I love the nurses, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love a lot of the very weird kind of straddling, like, sexualized nature of the Silent Hill 2 characters. But it made sense for the monsters to have that sort of sexual essence because it represented the main character's repressed sexual desires because his wife was sick.
Yeah, and then Pyramid Head is his need to be punished.
Yeah. And when it comes down to, like, for example, Homecoming, why are there double D nurses in Homecoming? I don't think that he felt that way about his little brother.
I'm so happy that you brought that up because there was a note from one of the developers that worked on Homecoming, and he said, he's like, I'm not even a Silent Hill fan, but seeing Pyramid Head in the first 5 minutes is infuriating.
Well, yeah, there was such a build-up to him in the second game. And he stood for something, and you didn't really know if he was, like, out to get you, or if he was leading you, or if he was helping you, because he kind of did things that didn't necessarily do any of those things. And then he just was there, and then he would just leave. He'd kind of, like, corral you in a location, but when you shove that into a different game, completely out of context, with no psychological reasoning, it's kind of just for fan service at that point.
Yeah, and, like, even the Silent Hill movies where it's like, oh, Pyramid Head's like the guardian of Silent Hill.
And it's like, no, he's not. Dude, I had so much problem with the movies because I was the only one in my household who had played the games.
Mm-hmm.
And so while we're watching it, they're just like, I don't understand what's happening right now. And I had to basically stop every 15 minutes to explain what the retelling of the story was trying to suggest without actually explaining it. Mm-hmm. And even then, they did such a bad job of trying to re-explain the lore.
One of my favorite moments in that first movie is when the main character, oh god, what's her name? It's not Sybil, although she should have been the main character.
I do love Sybil Shepherd. Harry?
Well, of the first movie.
Oh, the first movie. What's his name? I'm blanking now because I remember Cheryl, and I remember
And
Sybil,
Sybil.
and I
Yeah.
remember Gillespie. Or Dahlia Gillespie.
I.
I'm gonna have to Google this. It's driving me nuts.
But you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes. Christopher.
Christopher.
Yeah, played by Sean Bean.
No, the main girl.
Oh, Heather. Wait, no.
Heather.
Wait, Cheryl. Wait, the little girl?
No, the mom.
The mom.
The main character of the first movie.
Oh, you're right. It was a woman, wasn't it? For some reason, I couldn't even remember she was in it.
Oh my god!
Rose. Her name is Rose.
Holy shit!
For some reason, I totally blanked on her even existing, and I thought that Sean Bean's character did the entire thing.
Okay, side note, how poor does a movie have to be at its own storytelling to make a viewer forget about the main character?
Apparently pretty bad, considering that, like, I think I remember them saying, they're like, oh yeah, we originally were gonna have it be the dad, but we found that a mother's love meant a lot more in symbology, even though the movie is supposed to mimic the game and the game had a male. I literally forgot the female existed because I only really noticed Sybil.
Oh my god. That is the funniest thing. Oh.
I cannot believe that wow.
That is going in. I am keeping that in this episode.
Well, that shows how much of an impact her character had on me.
Yeah, because there's a terrible scene where they're in the school, and she's staring at, like, a crater. Like, just a huge hole in the ground. She goes, something bad happened here.
It's like, no shit.
No. It reminds me of that. It reminds me of that Silent Hill 2 photo where it's like, there's a doghouse, but there's no dog to be seen as a dog's, like, tackling the side of his head.
Oh, darn. I don't know where that dog got off to.
I haven't seen the dog anywhere.
But no, I can't believe I forgot about the main character of the movie. And, like, the ending, I legitimately had to explain to everyone in my house because they're like, where are they right now? They're home. And I'm like, they're not home. And it's like, but they're at their house. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know they're at their house, but they're still in Silent Hill. And they're like, well, no, because they're not in Silent Hill. They're at their house. And I'm just like, oh my god. It's like, how do I explain this to you?
Well, even then, there was a series by Twin Perfect that dove into it too, but they explained how Silent Hill functions from game to movie, and it seemed that the writer and the director sort of misunderstood how it functions in the game. Because like
that doesn't surprise me.
Well, because like the first 2-3 games, it's essentially a projected nightmare. It's like it's the nightmare of one person wrought over a town, and then anybody who's brought in it becomes part of that nightmare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when the movie came around, they're like, nope, hell dimension. It's just a hell dimension.
It's totally just a hell dimension.
Yep,
and
totally.
a cult.
Don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much.
See, whereas the second game, like, really, I don't know, I like the whole mystery behind it, because a lot of the games kind of sprinkle in, like, oh, this was a sacred place, and oh, the natives called it this place, and oh, there was a cult here. You know, that kind of thing I find really intriguing, as opposed to, like, other horror games like Resident Evil, and I have nothing against Resident Evil. I'm just not scared of zombies. Where it's like, oh, there was a virus, and now it's loose, and now everyone is a zombie. Rawr.
Well,
whereas I was like, this is legitimate, like, supernatural shit.
There's no way to fight it, at first, at least.
It's like I can run
Yeah.
and I can try to get out, but I can't fix it.
Yeah, there's no main baddie I can just shoot and then it's all over.
Exactly. And so
Well,
I've always loved the Silent Hill franchise for that.
I need to get back into it because I played Homecoming because I bought it when it came out, and I need to finish Downpour. Oh wait, no, I finished Downpour.
I actually didn't mind Downpour.
Parts of it I didn't mind, but the first couple minutes I think trips over its own feet just a little bit.
See, I could see that.
Because it's like, oh, we're driving through Silent Hill, bus crash, get into Silent Hill, and the minute you get in, your objective becomes get out of Silent Hill.
It's like, well, I mean, technically you didn't go in there willingly, so... But it is kind of weird in the fact that how they deal with moral choice in that game. So, like, who he killed depends on how, like, your choices.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like, oh, he's an asshole and he killed this guy, or it could be like, oh, he's an asshole and he killed this kid. Like, there is no, oh, he never killed anyone. That's not an option. Like, it's a fucked up ending or a more fucked up ending.
Well, it's like, oh, he killed the guy who killed his kid, or he perceives to have killed his kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, nope, but he actually killed, like, an officer of the law.
Yeah, which is sad.
And,
But, like,
what's
but
that?
Homecoming kind of did something weird, too, where it was like, oh, it was you all along! And you're like, yeah, by now are you really that surprised?
You're not really a soldier, Alex.
You just have PTSD, and you drowned your brother. And it's like, yeah, I kind of see that.
Well, he's like, oh, I've got PTSD from being in the military, and then his dad's like, you were never in the military. You've been in a psychiatric hospital.
It's like, well, I mean, technically you might have PTSD from being in the psychiatric hospital.
Oh, yeah. But then you watch, like, I think it was some of the marketing material for it. It's like, well, Alex is able to use firearms and weapons to better effect because he is an ex-soldier. But then you find out he's not an ex-soldier, so why is he able to do combos?
That's a damn good question. Are they saying that because he believes he is better, he is better?
Alright, when I wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna just pretend that I know martial arts, and we're gonna see what happens.
Yes. And I'm going to be able to transcend space and time. Because I will it.
because reality bends around my will.
Yes, because I believe I can. So it's gonna happen. I'm a millionaire.
I am a millionaire.
You just gotta believe.
Well, believe it. Well, with that, I think we'll bring this here interview to a close. We're hitting the 40-minute mark. Thank you so much, Silvadorkable, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, and I have a quick question that I like to ask all my guests. I don't always ask it on the air because I forget sometimes, but this time I didn't forget. If asked, would you be able, or would you want to come on as a return guest?
Oh, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Silvadorkable, for coming on, and thank you, party people at home, for sticking around to the end if you did. Links to Silvadorkable's channel will be in the description below. Do you have a video that you would like to promote?
For those of you who like creepypasta, I have a couple of those on mine. One of them is called The Girl in the Mirror, and my viewers seem to like it, so I'd suggest that one.
Girl in the Mirror. I will write that down for later. Fantastic. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope you, Silvadorkable, and you wonderful party people at home, having a wonderful day, evening, morning, whatever time it is where you are. And try not to go into too many fog-based towns.
Yes, preferably not.
Have a good one, party people.
Bye!